Pokemon Pocket's first expansion, Mythical Island, will be coming on Tuesday, December 17th, and we got an official look at some of the cards coming inside of it. Today's video is going to review those and talk about how they could impact our existing metagame. Let's go ahead and dive into it, shall we? Let's kick things off with the obvious meta breaker coming in Mythical Island, Mew EX, 130 basic Pokemon. Deals 20 damage with Psy-Shot for just 1 psychic energy, but more importantly, has genome hacking. 3 colorless. Choose one of your opponent's active attacks and use it as this attack. Notably, this does not have Ditto's energy type matching restricting, meaning if you have 3 energy on Mew, you could use any of their attacks without other restrictions. This is a meta breaker because 2 of the most popular decks in Pokemon Pocket right now are Mewtwo EX and Charizard EX, which notably both have attacks that knock themselves out in a single hit. This means literally any deck in Pokemon Pocket will be able to play Mew EX, load it up to 3 energy, and then as long as you have this waiting on your bench ready to go, your opponent cannot knock out your active Pokemon with Mewtwo or Charizard without fear of you swapping into Mew and immediately KOing them on the back crack. This could be the card we've been waiting for to push Pokemon Pocket's metagame in a direction towards smaller attackers dealing smaller amounts of damage in a go, becoming more meta. This genome hacking ability could bring to the forefront of the metagame something like Blastoise EX as well, a card whose attack gets more powerful when you have a specific energy type, because Mew EX would only be able to deal 100 with that at any point unless you're stacking a bunch of water energy on it. I also think it's noteworthy that we'll need to know how this card interacts with cards that need to discard energies of a specific type, i.e. if Mew blasts Charizard with its own attack but has no fire energy on it, do you discard 2 energy that you happen to have, or do you discard absolutely nothing? Our next EX Pokemon confirmed to be coming to Mythical Island is Aerodactyl EX, 140 HP, with the Pokemon ability your opponent can't play any Pokemon from their hand to evolve their active Pokemon. It pairs this with a 2 energy Land Crush, dealing 80 damage. The power of Aerodactyl EX's ability is definitely going to vary depending on what the metagame looks like. In our existing metagame of Mewtwo, Pikachu, Charizard, for example, this effect largely doesn't have any text. Mewtwo is evolving Gardevoir while it's on the bench, and Charizard wants to get fully set up before it pushes Charizard to the front. That being said, dealing 80 damage for 2 energy is solidly on rate in Pokemon Pocket's current energy to damage ratio, so I could see this card being a reasonable one that you want to reach for in a number of decks anyways, and then its ability just ends up being upside when its effect is relevant. Our next spoiler really excites me as a 2-color deck enjoyer. Exeggcute has growth support for a colorless energy. You get to take a grass energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. This is the type of effect that we need to enable 2-color decks inside of Pokemon Pocket. This means that if you're playing a 2-color deck with Exeggutor and you brick on that grass energy to start, you can attach your other type of energy to this and build it up. While our existing Exeggutors only need 1 grass energy to attack, it's also worth noting that having a second energy of another color on it is not completely wasted, because Exeggutor has a hefty 3 energy retreat cost, so you're often attaching an extra energy to it in the mid to late game anyway, so you can pull it out of that active spot. One big question mark in my mind is, do I need to have grass energy explicitly in my energy zone during the deck construction portion of the game in order to activate this? Or does this make it possible for me to, say, only play fire energy in my energy zone and then still grab grass out of it so I can attack with this. At any rate, regardless of that detail, I think this type of effect is one we'll probably see more of in Pokemon Pocket as a means to smooth out the variance that two-color decks currently experience. Up next, we have a Vaporeon that I would wager is fairly strong, 120 HP with the ability Washout. As often as you like during your turn, you may move a water energy from one of your benched water Pokemon to your active Pokemon. We then also have an attack, Water Splash, that does 60 for 3 energy. This card, I would wager, is the one that finally puts Starmie EX over the top. Starmie EX has always been an incredibly powerful Pokemon Pocket card, but the supporting cast around it has never quite fallen into line, and Vaporeon's Pokemon ability in tandem with Starmie EX's free retreat cost is incredibly powerful. You get 2 energy on your Starmie EX as your lead attacker. You hit them for 90 once or twice, and then when your opponent is ready to knock out Starmie, you can pull it back to your bench, put up Vaporeon or another water Pokemon, and immediately move those 2 energy from your weakened Starmie up to your new attacker and just keep dealing damage. This is huge. Not having to miss a beat when you pull your damaged Pokemon out is massive, and Vaporeon's break points line up pretty well into the metagame. Despite its weakness to lightning, this has 120 base HP, meaning it survives even a max charge hit from a Pikachu EX, meaning that this could be what water needs to be competitive into all these lightning decks. Our next card makes the new Vaporeon even better. Leaf, a brand new supporter that says during this turn, the retreat cost of your active Pokemon is 2 less. With Leaf, this means you could even lead on other water Pokemon with heavier retreat costs like Tentacruel, pull them out of that active spot before they get knocked out while retaining their energy, and then use Vaporeon to immediately shuffle that energy up to your brand new attacker. More generally, Leaf is an interesting trade-off between X-Speed, where X-Speed only reduces your retreat cost by 1, and Leaf does twice that, but coming at the cost of being your supporter card for the turn. I really like this inclusion into Pokemon Pocket in general, because it's going to create some diversity and deck building consideration in the slots that had largely been 2 X-Speeds in a lot of deck for whether or not you're willing to pay this more premium cost to get the more powerful effect. The one big question mark will be how many decks in Pokemon Pocket are interested in playing more than 2 copies of this type of effect, meaning you play X-Speed and Leaf together. Our next new supporter is Blue. During your opponent's next turn, all of your Pokemon take minus 10 damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. While at surface level, this may look like it's worse than Potion in a lot of spots, whether or not you want to play this in your deck will depend on what breakpoints your Pokemon are hitting in the format. A big one that comes to mind is if you're playing 90 HP Pokemon, they would really love Blue in our current metagame. The difference between getting knocked out or not in a single go against a Starmie EX or a fully charged EX Pikachu is make or break in a lot of games, and getting even one more turn with something like Jolteon, for example, will be able to win you a lot of games of Pokemon Pocket. Next up, we have Dedenne, a 60 HP basic lightning Pokemon who for a single lightning energy deals 10 damage and flips a coin to paralyze. I think this card is likely a solid upgrade from Penurchin, which we've seen in EX Pikachu decks. While it's got 10 less HP, the ability to attack for a single lightning energy is a big deal, and a 50% chance to effectively blank your opponent's next turn attacking or lock them out of retreating is quite a potent effect for the minimal investment that this card asks for. Next up is a new version of Tauros, 100 HP with 2 retreat costs, but has Fighting Tackle, a 3 energy attack that does 40 damage, which kicks up to an additional 80 if your opponent's Pokemon is an EX. This effect seems very reasonable. I would wager we're still going to see plenty of EX Pokemon around, and it notably clears things like Pikachu EX in a single go, and when paired with Giovanni, it can kick up to crack things like Starmie in one shot as well. While obviously you wouldn't want to invest in this energy attack against non-EX Pokemon, it's worth noting that 100 HP with the 2 retreat cost is a pretty reasonable shield to be starting on while it takes damage to set up behind for your finisher. I can definitely see decks wanting to play this as their lead Pokemon to have the flexibility to attack into EXs while also just being something that is a wall to begin with while you set up your other primary plan of attack. Next up, we have Delmise, which is essentially Grass Lapras. Basic Pokemon with 100 HP, does 20 damage for 1 grass energy, and does an additional 70, i.e. a total of 90 if you have 3 additional grass energy attached to it. Overall, similar to Lapras, I would expect that this card's probably not very good unless we get something akin to a Misty that randomly lets you attach a ton of extra energy to your grass Pokemon. Next up is a fairly mediocre Magmar, 80 HP, 2 fire energy attack that deals 80 but asks you to discard 2 fire energies to do it. The breakpoints on this, even with its bonuses, aren't particularly appealing. Blaine adding 30 means that this still comes up short of knocking out key opposing Pokemon like Pikachu EX. I'd be pretty surprised if this Magmar is anything people want to play. Finally, we have a handful of basic Pokemon spoiled that aren't really relevant on their own, but will likely have evolution lines that will make them worth playing. They are Mornall, Snivy, and Lavastra. Thanks for making it to the end of our first Mythical Island card preview review. I would love to hear in the comments down below if you like these more concise, highly edited videos reviewing things like this that take a quick minute to put up, or would you prefer if I just do an off-the-cuff raw reaction style thing that gets up ASAP in the future? If you're someone that's new to the channel, you made it all the way to the end of the video, consider tapping that like button and subscribing to the channel and coming back again. I make Pokemon Pocket content here 7 days a week, and I'm looking forward to diving into lots of competitive brewing with these new cards, especially Mew EX, our new meta breaker, when the set drops next week.